Let me hit record too. Okay, wait for a few more. Okay, so I'm gonna end the poll and I'm gonna share the results. Okay, so I was just curious how many of you guys have used Slack before, or have heard of people using it but haven't used it, and or have never used it. So thank you. So this is helpful to kind of know what your experience is on that. Let me close out. Okay, so Slack is a communication tool, right? It allows you to communicate, collaborate, and work together. We in the CTL decided when we started working remotely that we were going to communicate through Slack. Christy, that was years ago that we set up a Slack group. So we set up a Slack group internally with Christy, Lisa, Todd, and I. We didn't really use it. We were in the office. We just go see each other. But now that we're remote, it's been a lot better. I think from my personal experience, I like having it. You can have Slack on a phone, mobile device, I know it didn't show well, a tablet, your desktop. So it works on all different platforms. But what's nice about it is you're not then emailing back and forth. So I'm not emailing Christy back and forth wondering like, oh, a quick question. If I have a quick question, we can communicate through Slack through direct message, right? You can also set up what is called channels. So those of you that were on the Teams training last week, Microsoft also calls things channels, right? And what channels are is that's your way to communicate and work together. So I could have an instructional technology channel, or if I was using this in a class, I could have a team A channel, a team B, or group 1 or group 2. So you can have a whole bunch of different channels that can have different group members in that channel to communicate and share files. Does that make sense? Thumbs up, thumbs down, sideways, right? Okay. What's also great about Slack is that everything is just in one place. So it's not, so your emails are, at least for me, I'm feeling like any communication with CTL, we're communicating with Slack. So I'm not worried about, oh, there's that email message that's somewhere else. The email messages are from other people at center, right? So that I can respond that way. Okay, so we're going to show how to use Slack. I'm going to go through the ins and outs, and it would be great if you guys had the browser open so you can follow along as well, right? And I'm going to share my screen. The other thing I wanted to say is Slack also has a very robust search feature. So if you start using it and you start sharing files and you're like, I don't remember that name of that file, you can search and it would easily search within all your communication channels. You also, there's an apps feature that you can add, and Christy's going to show us later on. There's a Zoom app within Slack. There's a Teams app within Slack. There's, I was looking at it this morning, there's Google Drive and OneDrive within Slack too. But Christy's going to show us in a little bit how to make a Zoom call within Slack. So you don't even go outside of Zoom, okay? I don't know, those of you that had used it before, if there's anything before we get started that you like, or if there's questions that you guys have, because I want to make sure I address some of the questions you all have as well. And if you want to use the chat feature, you can do that. Lisa and Christy, Lisa's be monitoring that. Or you can unmute yourself if you want as well. Okay, no questions. All right, so we're going to move on if that's okay. All right, let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay, you all should now be seeing my Slack screen. Thumbs up, we see it for those? Okay, great. All right. So when you set up Slack, I set up what is called a workspace. Okay, and you can have multiple workspaces. This workspace, if you look in the upper left corner, is called Tech Tuesday Workshop, right? I didn't know what to call it. I wanted to keep it a little bit different, right? So that is on, sorry, I'm changing my view so that way you can see me. Okay. So that is our workspace. You can have multiple workspaces. We are on the free plan. We in CTL, we don't pay for the other paid versions, right? We have enough that the free works for us. I think there's like a limit of 10,000 messages, all that kind of stuff. So you have a lot of options there, right? So I would stick with the free plan if you're going to start using this with your program or your department, and kind of go from there. Okay, so I see this is the name of the workspace. Now, I'm going to talk about these and then we'll dive closer into them. Okay, so underneath that, obviously the people, if I click on people, and you all should see the same thing I'm seeing. So if you're not, please let me know. And these are all the people that I invited to the group. And let me move this over, right? So I can scroll down, right, and see all my members on it. No, it's not gonna let me scroll down there. There we go. Right, so I can scroll down and see all my members of the group. If I wanted to invite more members, I can just go ahead and put their email in here and click the add. And we'll look at notifications. I didn't change any of the notifications or settings with it, so you all should be allowed to add other people. If you want to use this as a group to test before you set up your own workspace, feel free to go ahead and do that as well. Okay, so let me scroll back up. Okay. The apps are the different apps, and we'll talk about those here in a little bit. And then the files are any files that people have shared. So everybody that's in your workspace, you're all team members of the workspace. This is where you would see all the files. So you can see I have the handout I emailed you all yesterday. I added that in the files. Okay, so far so good? And if there's questions, like I said, you can use the chat or just interrupt me and let me know. Okay. The next thing I want to talk about are the channels. And like I said, I'm just showing the basic what this looks like, and then we'll dive into this a little bit more. So your channels are your ways to communicate with the team. And you can set up different channels and invite different members of the channel. So like by default, when I set up this workspace, announcements, ideas, team, and welcome are all the default channels. Okay, every one of us are members of all these channels. And we'll set up a channel here in a minute. And then your direct messages right here, those are all where you can communicate one-on-one or with multiple people in a direct message. I think the limit is 8 people within a direct message that you can communicate with within a team in here. Now, your screen may look different than mine, and that is okay. Direct messages, what it does is it showcases the most recently used, right? The most recent direct messages. I think because I set this up, it's going to show the people that accepted the invite first, right? Unless I've communicated directly with them on here. So you don't have to worry about, oh, I see somebody, everybody is here, and we'll show that in a minute. And then the apps are Teams and Zoom by default. When you create a new space, they're automatically added within that as well. Are there any questions with what we're seeing on the navigation left side? Any?
Several people are not seeing the files or the apps and wondering if that's an admin setting for the channel.
So we're gonna get, I'm surprised you're not seeing the files. Okay, because the files, so they're not seeing files and apps up here above people. Are you seeing apps down below here? Is anybody seeing that? If you can just let me know.
No, I'm not, and I can see it on my other groups. So there's something different about this group.
Well, okay, so Christy and I were chatting yesterday, and we were just talking a little bit about today's session. And when I created this group last week, the apps below here where it says Zoom and Teams was not there. So I went through and I was looking at other apps that I wanted to showcase today. And one was Google Drive and OneDrive. and it was weird. And I'm going to show you all this. So hopefully Katie and that will add it. It will add it there. When I went through and added those apps, when I refreshed my browser, these appeared because on our CTL workspace, and I'm just going to bump over and show you, and we're going to learn how to add a workspace and switch over. By default, these were here. I'm not the owner of that, Christy is. So there could be an admin. Well, obviously I'm the owner of the workspace, so I don't know what was changing within that. So we'll look at that, and if it's still not there by the end of this session, we'll do some research and I'll send an email out to you all about that. This I thought automatically showed up for everybody, so I'm not sure. I might need to know. Katie Ann's shaking her head. Okay, I'll look into that too, because yeah, I don't know what's. And I'm in Chrome. I'm on my Mac laptop. I'm on my desktop, so that shouldn't matter. I do know, and of course, it's not with apps or files on your phone. There's certain features that don't work or show up on your phone or tablet, but show up on here. So I'll look into that if it doesn't show up by the end when we start adding apps, okay? So, because the files is weird. I mean, you could, well, let's add people. So we'll take a look at that and see what's going on. Any other things, Christy? It's weird that the files aren't, but I'll keep an eye out on that. Okay, because this, like I said, down here below wasn't showing up. Okay. All right, so let me first talk about notifications and show you where notifications are. So one of the benefits with using Slack is getting and receiving notifications. If you have it on your tablet or your phone or your desktop, you want to enable that notification, right? Because otherwise, if you don't keep the browser open, if you don't check it, you don't know that somebody messaged you, right? So notifications are really important. So if you go up to the Tech Tuesday workshop and you click on that down arrow, because that tells you there's more options, you want to go, and you can change some of this stuff. You want to go to preferences. So when you click on preferences, here's where you can enable your notifications. So I'm on my laptop. I'm not on my desktop, which is what I use primarily. If I want to enable desktop notifications, I would click this green button right here. And when I do that, it says app Slack wants to show. I'm going to hit allow, right? And so now my notifications are turned on this device. So if I went upstairs and now I'm working and I'm not on my laptop, I'm on my other computer, my home computer, I would want to make sure notifications are turned on that. Does that make sense with that? Now on your phone and tablets, notifications are automatically enabled by default. So you don't have to set up notifications on that unless you turn it off and say, I don't want it. So this is where you would set it up. And it is, if you're going to start using this as a group and a team, you would want to make sure you turn on the messages. So I want them to notify me about all new messages, right? You don't have to. I could do just direct messages that are to me or anybody that mentions my name. Those of you on Teams, last week, remember we talked about the @ symbol, and then you would put like @ and I would say Candace or @ whatever. That is the same type of concept with that. So if Christy wanted to message me, she would say @ Candace or Seawens or whatever my name is, and then it would pop up and I'd get a notification. So I like to keep that on about all new messages. And then you can look, if you scroll down, you have other settings that you can use, right? If I want it different on my mobile, I can change that. And then I can also set up a do not disturb. So please, after 10 to 8, I don't want to receive anything. And maybe that's good. Maybe you have people in your team that work at 1 o'clock in the morning. You don't want to get woken up by that. So you have different options. So if you guys want to scroll down, and then, oops, where did it go? So let me go back. I didn't think I clicked anything. The sound icon, right? You can even change your sound. I'm not going to touch it because I don't want it. It's recording right now. So does everybody see the notifications? Yes, thumbs up. Okay, thank you. You have other preferences. I'm not going to go through all these right now. I mean, you can look at your sidebar. Now, some of the features are for the paid version. I don't recommend paying for it, right? Slack is great free. Christy's also shaking her head, don't pay for it, right? I don't know what you would need to do more of that you would want to pay money out of it, right? So I think the free works great within that. And then if you have a certain theme or let's say a certain language, right, you can change that. Your messages, you can also look at where the mark is red, right? Showing that you looked at it. Slack, I haven't gotten used to this and I'm a keyboard shortcut person. They have certain keyboard shortcuts on things as well. Okay, there's an accessibility to allow us an advance. I don't want to go through this too much, but I think a lot of it's pretty straightforward. The notifications are the big ones right here.
Can I make a comment about the
absolutely.
You're on the web right now.
Yes.
I would highly recommend downloading the app for your computer. Notifications work a lot better when you actually have the app. I mean, you can set all these, but when you have the app on your computer, it's much easier to control. And you don't lose track. You don't accidentally close the browser window, that sort of thing.
That's a good recommendation. Yeah, and I think it's how you guys want to use it. I work a lot on my home computer, not on the laptop. I do when I'm doing these because I need more quiet space. But a lot of times I work on mine. But I also have my phone and my iPad that have the app on it, so I get notifications out a lot. But yeah, that's a great point, Christy. Thank you for mentioning that.
Oh, and one other thing is, so like I have the app on my computer, and if I walk away from my computer, then I start getting notifications on my phone.
Awesome. Yeah. It's a great tip. Thank you.
Wait, Christy, are you saying that it knows when you walk away from your computer?
That's actually a setting. So it's a setting in the notifications. It's when you've been idle for however long, to start pushing them to the mobile device.
Wow.
Yeah, I saw that somewhere. Here, send notifications at the bottom as soon as I'm inactive. So if your computer goes to sleep.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. Great. Thank you, Christy. That's awesome. Okay. So when you start receiving notifications, you'll get like a little red icon, right? Or a number. If you've missed 3 messages, it will have a number 3, depending on if you're on your device or a desktop. So we'll start seeing that because we're going to start doing that in a message in a minute. One thing I want to show is before we get into channels. Oh, so Christy just messaged me. Thank you, Christy. It says Christy Birch 1. So she sent 1 line of text or 1 thread. She might, if she writes something else again, right, it's going to show it in a paragraph, but it will say 2, right, within that. So if I click on where Christy messaged me, right, she is right here. It says, for example, and it's date and time stamped, right, today at 10:21. One feature that we've not used within CTL as much is you can actually do a video call and a phone call. So the phone right here within it. So you don't even, if you're like, I don't know so-and-so's number, but we're communicating, right? You're in a big group and you can actually call directly. I'm not going to do that, right? But you can do that and a video call all within Slack. It only works one-on-one in the free version. If you're in the paid, if you want to do a group, it's not in the paid version. The video feature call does not work on your phone, right? It's only on the app and on your desktop app. So, and I'm gonna write thank you. So we'll get into direct message and then I'll talk about channels. So direct messages is where I can communicate one-on-one or with multiple people, right? And so as you can see on my screen, I'm seeing the most recent, right? But if I see, okay, so Elizabeth's not in here, if I want a direct message, if I click on this plus sign right here, it's gonna pull up everybody within the team, right? And then some. So if I wanted to send a message to Elizabeth, I can pull Elizabeth in there. And let's say Crystal, right? And I can hit go. Add 2 people, and it puts their name right there. And then in the bottom box here below, I can go ahead and write a message and then hit this little send message or enter return on my keyboard. Okay, you can also format, and we'll send files here in a minute. So what I want you guys to do is go ahead and try to direct message. I don't know how many people we have now on the call. I know it was like 15 or so. I'm going to try to message everybody on here, and send a direct message, right? You want to do like a little test. So you're in here, Katie. I'm just pulling up. And I can see, right? Yes.
I can at least only see you. I have nobody else in that list.
Well, and it's because it's only good. So I think because I'm the owner, Katie Ann, the direct messages is only showing your most recent. So
it doesn't show anybody though. When I click on that list that you showed, it shows nobody other than you.
You don't see
when I hit the plus. Okay, now it started to add other people.
Can you just type someone's name in?
So yeah, the group here, it should be.
Yeah, if you type the name in, it'll start to populate.
But it's not showing everybody's name. Is that everybody get the same thing on that?
It's not going to show recent for them because they haven't actually communicated with those people in the channel yet.
Yeah, that's true. I guess if you have your people tab here, right, and you could probably, so if I wanted to pick on Jen, I could do a message that way. If you're like, who's in my group, right? Maybe. Okay, this is good to know because, you know, the CTL, we've had it set up years ago for me. And so you know, I created this new workspace, and so from scratch, and it's like, oh, we don't have some of the same features that we did there. So go ahead, Katie Ann, did that work?
Yes, if you type it in, it'll start to populate it. But you have to know who you're looking for because there doesn't have, the list doesn't populate. So you would have to be able to know who's already in your team.
Yeah. Well, and what we're going to do next, I'm going to show you how to do a channel, right? And that's going to be within the team, right? And that will, I think, be a little bit easier. The direct message is more so like if Christy and I are communicating one-on-one on something that I didn't want the whole group to know, I would message her that way, and it's private. No one else can see that within that. One thing, and let me close out of that. One thing I want to show within the direct message, right? So Genevieve wrote me back. I can actually give a reaction, and we do this a lot in the CTL. So we're like, okay, I read it. So instead of writing back, thanks, I read it. I mean, sometimes we do that, or I do that. You can do a thumbs up reaction, right? So that way everybody knows, right? Or you could do like a smiley face, right? And so you can add reactions back to the different groups, right? Or your different direct message back and forth. And you can see all that kind of pop up that way. And like I said, I think initially I had only 10, but I'm starting to see more in my list. So Katie Ann, thanks for letting me know that they're all not just showing up in there. So that is the direct message with it. So there's a Slack bot, and I forget what that does, but if I don't want to see it, I can just hit this little X right there and remove. So let's say I'm with Todd. I'm just going to remove you for a message. I don't want to see Todd. I haven't communicated with him yet in this group. I can click the X right there and it goes away. Right? If there's someone that I'm like, okay, I'm done communicating with, or maybe they decided they didn't want to be part of, I didn't want to have them on the list, I can go ahead and do it that way as well. Any questions with a direct message? Okay. So to get to what you were talking about, Katie Ann, what we would want to do is set up what is called a channel. And the channels are the best way to communicate in groups, right? So if I wanted to have, if I want to say welcome to everyone, I can do a message that everybody in the group sees. But instead, I want to create my own channel. And maybe I wanted to have it be group 1 or team A or instructional tech. So if I click on this little plus sign, right, and I hit create a channel, right? So if I hit create a channel, I can go ahead and give it a name. So maybe I want to say, I'm just going to say group 1. And then I could give it an optional description. I can decide to make this channel private or I can make it public, right? Right now it's public, other people can see it, right? Private would be so if you were a faculty and you're teaching and you wanted this in your class and you wanted to set up a group with team 1 with 4 people and you didn't want anyone else to join, you would want to make it private. But you as a faculty member should still have access, but what one of our faculty did this past spring is they made sure if the students made their own channel, they had to add that professor to the channel. So that way the professor could make sure that there wasn't anything, everything was appropriate, right? So that was part of their guidelines within that. I'm going to not make it private. I'm going to make it public. So I'm going to hit create. And when I do that, I can add everybody or I can add specific people. And so you're right. Like here, I'm like, okay, now I gotta look down at my list to see who's all in here. So Peggy, Elizabeth, let me type.
Do you really want that chipmunk?
Ah, Elizabeth. There, I lost you, Peggy. Oh, if I can spell right. Right, so I have to go and click their names. So I'm gonna do in the order I see on my screen. Hold on a second, I'm gonna do the first 4. And then I'm gonna do Caroline. Oops, come on. Caroline. All right, so I'm just typing in and I'm looking at my Zoom. And so I'm gonna hit done on that group, okay? So now maybe I wanna do group 2. So I'm gonna add a new channel and create a new channel.
Candace, pause for a minute.
Okay.
Question. Do students have the ability to create a private channel on their own? And if they did, would faculty know if they did that without adding the professor?
So there is, and I should have shown you the settings. We'll create another channel real quick and then we'll go into the setting. So there is in the settings that you can allow students to create it or not, right? And so they can go, you can monitor that. Now, this person, it was politics. I think they turned, everything was kind of open. I'm trying to remember. I'd have to go back and look because I'm part of that Workspace group. And they just said, hey, if it's private, because as the owner, you can see a lot of different things. But I want to say if they make the group private, I don't know if now I'm starting to think the faculty didn't have access, which is why they said I need to be part of that private group. So that way I can keep track of your messages that you're sharing and sending to make sure that people weren't going off within that.
Right, but the question, can I see that it exists so that I know there's a private one for me to ask about?
You should see everything that exists as the owner.
Okay.
We'll go look at the settings next because I totally forgot when we were looking at notifications. I wanted to show that. So we'll go look at that next. But yeah, we'll look at that and I'll verify too with that politics ones because I ended up having to create documentation for this person to share with the students and then kind of help this professor we work together on, okay, here's what is going to be appropriate if you're communicating, right? And that was before we ended up going remote. So I haven't heard how it turned out once we went remotely. So yeah, I'll look at that next, Jen, okay? Thanks, that's a great question. Okay, So I'm going to add group 2 real quick. I'm not going to make it, well, actually, let me make this one private, right? But see, it says if you make it private, it can't be undone, right? So you can turn a public channel into private, but if you make it private, it stays private, and then I'd have to reset up a new group, okay? As the owner. Actually, I'm going to turn that off. I'm going to hit create. So now I'm going to go next. I want to see. I can't see who this is. Okay. So group 2, I didn't add anybody. So let me go ahead and add members. Hold on a second. So add people that way. All right. I'm looking down at my screen. Peggy already added you as a group. I think everyone's moving. All right. There you go. Christina, Willie. Oops. Come back here. Sorry. So used. Okay. I don't think, Jen, you were in that. And then I'm going to add Ann to this group, right? And I'm going to hit done. And then I have Crystal and Genevieve. Okay, I still have to create more people, but I wanted to create those 2 groups. Now, did anybody else create a channel, or those 2 channels? Anybody else create a channel? Let me create one more. Group 3. And then let me hit create. Let me add one more. I didn't want to do this ahead of time. And one thing you can do, you could think about, if you're using this in your class, you could think about adding, I can't see the name. Oh, so that's the only bad thing. I can't see everybody who's on here, so I don't know who I'm missing. Let me go real quick to show grid so I can kind of see. All right, who am I missing that I didn't add? Because I know besides Lisa and Christy. Anybody else in the group? Okay, I'm gonna hit done. Okay, okay. So now as a group, now I am the owner. So I actually, because I created the group, I think it automatically add me as a teacher. But did any of you guys create a channel that they want to share? No one wants to share? Because I'd be curious if you, huh?
We've got several secret channels going on here and you can't see them.
Okay, so I can't see it. But now, mind you, when I set this up, I was going to say, because I don't see anything, I figure there's stuff going on. I was hoping, right? Now, I didn't change any of the settings. When this is from scratch, when I went right through and created that. And so I'm the owner of this workspace, right? So if you're a faculty member, and I think that's why this faculty member did that. But we're going to go look at the settings next, because I think that was a great question, Jen, that you asked. So let me, I know group 3 is making, there you go, perfect. Okay, so let me go ahead and show you some of the other settings. So if you go back up to where it says Tech Tuesday Workshop and click the down arrow, if you scroll down, there's the settings and administration options, okay? And so you have right here, this workspace settings. So if I click on that, it's gonna open up a new tab. I still have my Slack group open. I can still see that. But here's where I have all my different options, right? So I can, if I hit expand right here, I can choose, right? By allowing people, I think I have it set up to where you guys can invite people to join this group, right? Default channels, let me click on that. So these are the default. If I didn't want ideas or this team, because I didn't want to, maybe I'm having a team channel, I didn't want to confuse everybody with the terminology, I can remove them, right? I don't know if there's anything in that. And I can hit close. Well, I don't, yeah, let me hit save, right? And then close. your name guidelines, oops, sorry, let me scroll back up. The name display, email, do not disturb, all that kind of stuff. So I have all these different options that I would want to go in. And then obviously you have some paid features, right? Which I wouldn't want to do. If you wanted to change your URL name, you can change that as well. So those are your basic settings within the channel. Let's look at permissions. Okay. All right, so messaging, right? So here's where I can change, right, on who uses the @everyone, right? So if I didn't want to make sure that there were not guests there, I can change some of that. I have an invitations, right? By default, any member can invite new. That's the default. If I'm using this for a class, I probably wouldn't want that, right? I would want to make sure, oh no, I want to require, right? And then kind of change things that way as well, right? All admins, right? So I can do that as well. Let's look at this channel management down here, expand. Okay. So here it addresses a little bit, Jen, what you were asking, right? So people who can create private channels. Maybe I don't want any one of you guys to create private channels. Maybe I only want it to be the owner, right? This is the default is everyone. So that's why I didn't want to change any of that, right? Who can create public? So you can change some of those settings to depend on how much control you want. And like I said, this person, they were doing 2 sections of the same course, and they were cross-sectioning different groups and stuff like that. So it was a little bit, I think Slack worked really well for them. I hadn't heard anything, but they had a policy in place that the professor needed to be on that. You know, I don't also know, I think the students did create it. Now I'm going to go back and check with her, because I do think she allowed students to do that on there. Okay, so archive, you can archive a channel. People can remove members, right? Probably if you're making a private channel, anyone can remove. So there's some of your channel settings here as well. And then there's other features you can see that are for the paid. Does anybody, Jen, does that help a little bit? I know there's probably secret channeling messaging going on right now.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
You're welcome. So any other questions from anybody else with some of the settings on that?
Sorry, I had a phone call. Can you make multiple people owners or admins of the workspace? Did we already cover that?
I feel, no, I didn't. I think you can add other owners. And now I'm thinking of, where did I see that at? Because I don't think, let me go back. So I'm going to keep this tab open. I'm going to go back to the group. So if I go back to my people tab.
I actually just saw it. If you go back to where you were, I saw manage roles.
Yeah, I think it's too under here too when you have the people as well, but I know there's a couple different ways. Let me go back to workspace settings, and then
up at the top,
yeah,
it said manage roles.
Sorry.
There you go.
Manage members and roles. I think that goes back to where the people were. Yeah. So here is, oh, and I want to show this too. So thanks for mentioning that. Let me scroll down. Let's see it. Okay. So I also, if I invited myself from home, right? I did not join, but I wanted to show you that, like, you can actually invite other people outside of center, right? This is not a center thing. If you wanted to remove somebody from your group, you can go ahead and click on the 3 dots, and I could say resend the invitation, or I can revoke the invitation. And when I do that, it just deactivates them from this workspace. So their account, if they ended up having that, let me hit deactivate. And then if I refresh, eventually I'll go away, but you'll see I'm deactivated there. So let's say, let me find Christy. And I can go here and click on the 3 dots and do change account type. And I can make Christy a workspace owner as well. Now, what I don't know, I think we both end up being we're both owners. I think we both have 2 co-owners on that. And Christy's our owner of our CTL space that we have as well. So you have a little bit different settings that you can change under here as well. So that's nice, because I accidentally invited someone and they were signed up for the other workshop. So I had to remove them. So, but I also wanted you to see that you can invite yourself like I did from home, right? As well. Okay. Any other questions, Christy, that I needed to address within there? I think I had that later on. Okay. So we set up channels. We were testing. Thank you, someone, for making a public channel on here. The other thing, next thing I want to show, I want to make sure I'm not missing anything, is that if I wanted to, and I'm just going to go to the announcement, if I wanted to send or share a file or a link, so let's say I'm like, you guys need to check out this website. So I'm going to copy it. I can come down here in the message and copy and paste the URL and paste the link just like I would, right? If you have a file that you want to send to somebody, you can click on this you can drag and drop it in the window, but I can also hit this attach file. And if I have Google and OneDrive on here, I can find it from there. If I go on my computer, let's say I wanted to share the C6HO background with everybody, and I can type in a message, check out this background, and I can hit send or return. And I just did this in the announcement, but you can do that back and forth if you guys can send it back and forth within the group as well, right? So if you wanted everybody in the team to have it, you can do it there, or you can do it within the group. So you can send files and messages. I know we do that a lot. We're like, here, check this file out. And so it's a link to something in OneDrive. So then it makes it a little bit easier. Your files have to be less than 1 gig. So if you have a video that's larger than that, you're not going to be able to add that in there, okay? If I did a copy link from like OneDrive, right, and I shared it with the group, no one else could see that link. So depending on how I have that, so only the team members can get to that. So if I had a private OneDrive, and I shared it within the team, it would give the team members, you guys would be able to access it, and I should have pulled one up, but no one else outside of this group in this team would be able to see that file. Okay, so your files basically stay within Slack, if that makes sense. And I don't know if anybody wants to add a file. And then Katie Ann, do you see files yet still? I know I'm going to get to apps here in a minute.
Candace, can I ask a question?
Yes.
You said the files stay in Slack?
It depending on how you link it. So
Okay.
it
But
depends on how you link it.
If you linked it to OneDrive, the file itself would be in OneDrive, right?
Yes. Yeah, it all depends. So like this one was a handout I created, right?
Mm-hmm.
I had it on my desktop, so I didn't link it within the OneDrive. So that stays within this group, just like the image. If you had a file within OneDrive that you copied the link, right, and put it in,
Mm-hmm.
that file would stay in OneDrive, yes.
Okay.
So
So
like,
on
go ahead.
under files, I can only still see, right now I can see the picture that I added, but I don't see the communicating with your team in Slack PDF, and I don't see the C6HO file.
Okay. Are you on a tablet or are you on your desktop?
I'm on my desktop and I have the app.
Okay. Weird. Okay. All right. Thank you, Katie, and I appreciate that.
Does anybody else see these other things, or am I the only one that's not seeing those things?
Or am I?
I can see this C6HO thing and something that says see all your team's files, but I guess that's just the default picture.
Do you see communicating with your team, this one right here? I know my screen's a little small because.
I don't see that one, but I do see the other one. So that's really interesting.
Really? Yeah, very interesting. Let me try something real quick. So I'm gonna do another thing, and I'm gonna send this. So I'm gonna drag and drop this. It was on my desktop, so I just grabbed it here. Try this again, and I'm gonna hit send. Now this is in the announcements, right? Instead, the first time I grabbed it, I just grabbed it and put it in this files, right? I didn't share it in the team announcement. So maybe this is something with that. I would be curious now, because now it's in the announcement, you all should see it, hopefully, is if you go back to files, what you guys see.
Nope. So I see it in the announcements, and the other one that whoever was talking mentioned was the file, was the screenshot that I took earlier, where it says see all your team's files. That's a screenshot that I took earlier, and that shows you exactly what I have on my screen, and it's still that way.
Okay. All right.
So there's the C6HO and the other file I see in the announcements, but it never showed up in the files folder.
I'll check the settings when we get off and kind of see what's going on. So, Christy, you're an owner now. You see everything, right? Or no?
I'm not seeing anything in files. I see that it says 2 files, but all that I see is this default, like, upload a file. It's taking up the whole screen.
All right. Well, maybe the files are just for me and not anybody else. I will investigate and send an email to the whole group this afternoon on what I find out. So
Candace, I can see the files.
Yeah,
I see the
I
C6HO and your other image that you uploaded, but I don't see the document you just added.
I just refreshed and now I see it in files. This is Peggy.
Oh, okay. That's a good. Can everybody refresh? See, I'm learning all this stuff too, right? It makes me, hopefully, I mean, we've in the CTL been using Slack nonstop, so I haven't experienced anything.
I refreshed and all I see is the one that I uploaded.
All right.
I refreshed and Peggy's trick worked. Now I see 4 files in there.
Okay, so how do you refresh if you're in the app?
I literally just hit Command R or Control R.
Okay, I didn't know that one.
All right. Well,
yeah, this keyboard shortcut I didn't know. That's just.
I'll investigate that. And we'll see. So.
And I still have nothing.
All right, Katie, and we'll figure it out. Thank you, Peggy. Though refresh. I'm gonna let Christy real quick show how to do a Zoom call, and then we'll wrap up with the apps. And I just want to show something on a phone with on your phone. So, Christy, you want to take over? Let me stop sharing. Hold on a second on my end. Hold on a second. I got to move this around. Let me hit stop share. Okay.
Okay, so now I have to share?
Yeah.
Okay. I think you might have to let me.
Oh, you should already. Okay. Hold on a second. Oh, all participants. Okay.
Okay, so now I can see it. There was a setting, just so you know. I had this checked, so I only saw mine, and now I see all of them. But anyway, okay, so I'll just do this in announcements. So I have added the app Zoom, and to add a Zoom meeting to a Slack channel, it is literally this easy. I think, except it worked the other day, and now it's not.
Well,
Hold on.
I don't know if it will work since we're in Zoom right now because it won't launch. Christy and I were not in Zoom when it allowed you to do that, but since we're screen sharing and we're in.
There we go. I got it. Okay, so it just creates a Zoom meeting that you all can join on the fly, and it just generates a meeting ID, and then you all can just join from right within Slack. So I'm wondering if anybody else can do that. Like if you all could do /Zoom and create your own meeting.
Do you guys want to try the shortcut?
Yep. Yep.
So you could even set that up if you're doing it with your class and say, that's what we're going to meet at 2 o'clock today or whatever time you're meeting, right? And it's already set up within the Slack.
Mm-hmm.
It's now their link.
And it's going to use the Zoom default settings. Now, apparently you can do the same thing with Teams. I need to look at the settings here because I didn't practice with Teams, but okay. Teams -calls. Okay. So if you do you can do the same thing with Teams. If you do /Teams-calls, you can create a Teams meeting on the fly as well.
Mm-hmm.
So pretty cool.
Perfect. Okay. So the last thing I wanted to show, does anybody have questions with that? The last thing I wanted to show was that, I had to unplug. I'm going to go back and share my screen for a sec. Wait, before I do that, yeah, let me do share screen. Is that you can actually set up a new workspace, right? So if you want to make your own workspace for your group, right? Within here, you can go ahead and hit add new workspace. And I don't remember if I had that on the handout or not. Within that, once you create a new workspace, you can actually switch workspaces. So we have a CTL workspace. But what I wanted to show was on a phone what that looks like with it. So let me stop sharing real quick and then let me share within my phone. So I have my iPhone plugged in through the cable, and I need to trust this computer. Come on. So, but I am on a Mac, so I had I'm prompted on your phone, yes. See if it's gonna let me share it. If not, I might have to do Bluetooth. All right. Let me stop it for a second. Let me try it one more time because it wants me to hit trust, but I'm not getting the trust symbol on or trust my phone on my phone. Come on. All right. This is also a way, Christy, if you guys haven't checked it out, Christy actually has done a great video on how you can use your phone as a document camera to show written work, right? So that's already on our website. But what I was gonna show, but AirPlay, I don't have the plugin on my Mac, and I was gonna show on my phone.
I've got it.
You want? Yeah,
I've got it. What do you want to show?
I was just gonna show them how to switch workspaces within an app.
Okay, I can do that.
Okay. I have the adapters, a USB adapter for it, and it's not working right. So I don't know what's going on. Love technology. Within Slack.
Okay, so I'm in the CTL right now, and then so I've got all of these over here. So I click on this little button at the top that you can't see, and then I click on. Well, I haven't added it to. There we go. Hold on. Haven't added it to my.
Yeah. So when you try to add it on there, it wants you to then type in the name of the workspace, then you got to log in with your username and password.
Okay, I got it. Anyway, so now I'm in it. So you just click on the little icon at the top. Where's the? Hold on. I get it.
Sorry, Christy.
Mouse.
But you can see all the different workspaces Christy has
Spotlight.
in Slack.
Spotlight. Oh, stop it. This is so dumb. Jeez. I'm gonna figure this out. Just hold on.
The only thing we could see is all your workspaces, so.
Okay, hold on.
But what the great thing that the reason why I wanted to show this was because if you, let's say your default workspace is the Tech Tuesday workshop, right? But yet you set up another workspace for your program or your department or for class. If someone notified you in a different workspace, you get the notifications on your device. So it doesn't have to be, so regardless of what workspace you have open, you'll get the notifications on there. So I just kind of wanted to show that because you can add multiple workspaces if you have it on an Android or your iPhone, your iOS device.
Can you see my little spotlight thing now?
Yes.
Okay, so you click on this button right here to navigate back to your channels or teams or whatever they're called.
Workspaces.
Workspaces, and then you can click on this to navigate between, and then go back up here and then navigate back down there.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. And then you can click up here and then get back to your channels.
And you pretty much have all the same features. The only thing you don't have is like you can't do the video call with the free version. So does anybody have any questions or comments? I know it's 11. I know some people had to run, which is fine. Things that you were thinking that you might use with Slack as we wrap up? Do you think you'll be using this in class or in your program? Okay, well, I'm going to look at some of the files that happened with Katie, and I think Christy found where it might be. And so I'll send out a follow-up to everybody. But as you're exploring, please feel free to share with us any questions or comments or how you're using it. We always love to know what our faculty and staff are doing. So thank you guys for joining us today.
Thank you, Candace.
Thanks.